Good evening, this is Liz Busquets, and this is January 14th, 2021, and this is a monthly teleconference for the ASCA board. So we have several items on the agenda, and I'm going to give the opportunity to each director to chime in on each one of these items, and then if there is a motion, we'll go ahead and discuss it, and it'll be brought to a vote, and that's usually how it works. So the first item is the last month email business.
I make the motion to accept last month's email business.
I'll second.
Okay, so what I heard was Denise making the motion to approve last month's email business, and Gina seconded. I'm hoping that's correct. Okay, so any further discussion? Okay, I'm calling for a vote. Everyone in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries. Okay, the next one is the computer system update. So that would be Warren.
Hi, good evening. Thank you, Liz. So, last meeting we talked about forming a group of folks who would help in the system upgrade going forward. Cala was very, very kind and put out a notice to the membership, and we've gotten some great response. We have seven folks so far who have submitted resumes. In some cases, they've been very clear, saying which type of position they're interested in. And in other cases, it's a little vague. In all cases, I'll be following up to really assess the level of interest and see if there's going to be a ability for us to work together.
Any questions for Warren?
Yes, this is Judy. Warren, what exactly is going on with the computer system at this moment? Is Inventive working on anything?
That's an interesting way to phrase the question. So we have continuous work that goes on with the computer, just keeping it up and running. And some of that work is done by vendors. In terms of, is there a project that they are trying to achieve completion of? Is there a sector of the system upgrade? There's nothing new. We haven't given direction on that. At this point, the last communication I had with them was we really appreciated their proposal for converting the ADMS over, but we did not have the capability at that time to deal with it. We would get back to them when we did. Forming this committee would be a first step. Getting support from the board is a necessary step as well. And of course, all of that is going to rely on having available finances.
Thank you.
If I can interject, it also depends on. I think that we had already discussed that we have to, after we put this committee together, the board and the committee will probably need to have a teleconference of some kind of meeting with Inventive, because they need to explain several things about the proposal that they sent, which we are not clear about. And Ali already has put forward some questions that we need to ask them. So before we put we need to put this committee together so that there are knowledgeable people that can, ask the right questions. And then we have to go to Inventive and clarify the details of the proposal. And then the board can take on, the question as to how we're going to proceed with the upgrade.
Yeah, thank you for that, Liz. And it is important in my mind, the proposal that Inventive put forth is not the one that I would like to move forward on. They have had one bulk proposal. I would like to break it into somewhat smaller pieces. We need to have clear short-term deliverables so we can make sure things are happening, but we also need to make sure that the chunks of the project that we're working on are going to be effective. And they had shown some indication that they'd be willing to do that, you know, in creating a proposal that was more broken down, lengthening the term and making it into chunks. But we do not have a proposal at this point that meets those. So I feel at this point what we have is interest by Inventive, but we don't really have a proposal even to accept. That's my understanding.
Well, that's why we need to meet with them, so that if the board makes it clear that we would like it to be broken down in more pieces, that if we can test each one once this is done to make sure that it runs properly before we pay out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yes, that's why we need to meet with them. I think we need to be, like I said, be able to ask smart questions, which I'm not capable of doing when it comes to these kind of things.
Yeah, I think that's probably, you know, if we look back over the years, the board itself has the oversight, but if I'm not mistaken, we don't all necessarily have the capability. So it's going to be very challenging for us to make sure this project moves forward, you know, in an appropriate way, given that we have sort of distributed authority and knowledge, and we'll have to take all that into account in making our plans for how we want to move forward. And
Right.
I will say some of the resumes we've gotten, we have people with really a significant amount of experience who you know, appear ready and willing to help, and we may be able to pool our resources and come up with a team that could make this work.
Yeah, and that was my hope in doing this whole thing, is that we'll get, I mean, yes, we have the responsibility about the financing that is going to go into these things, but we need to be able to also understand, and so what is going on. And so I think that putting in a committee that really knows, you know, how to talk to them, you know, and also, you know, explain to us the nitty gritty of, you know, what will go on, I think it's very important before we move forward to, you know, disperse any money.
Yeah, and I think we, you know, honestly, we have to decide if we have the bandwidth. You know, we talked about having regular updates. I think that makes sense. If you look at our, you know, our normal monthly meeting, you know, it would be very reasonable for an update on progress that was happening, or perhaps having some struggles, you know, to add a half hour or even an hour to our meeting. I mean, this is a project that deserves our attention, but can we commit that amount of time? So, you know, that has to be brought into the question as well. Is does the board have the appetite for this?
Yeah, I suppose that's true, but at the same time, you know, whether we have appetite for it or not is whether, first of all, we have the money. Second, whether ASCA really needs it, which I think it does, because otherwise we're just bleeding money and not getting enough done. So, I mean, at least that's my opinion on it. But at any rate, I mean, we're digressing, and I don't want to.
Yeah, very good. I think
yeah.
At this point, we have some resumes coming in, which is great. I think that's the summary. And I think next week we're going to have another meeting to talk in a little bit more detail.
Great. Okay. Any other questions for Warren? Okay. So our next item will be setting up the schedule for board meetings during the 2021 Nationals. I don't know. I don't know if we can do this as effectively here as it could be done by email, but the way that I was looking, let me find the schedule again. So the dates were when there is a finals is going to be more difficult because, you know, the board usually helps in these finals. So whether it's duck dog, agility, rally, obedience, whatever, conformation. And so the way, I don't know if you guys are looking at the schedule, but the way I'm thinking this could be done, perhaps maybe Saturday afternoon will be one, or Saturday morning, whatever. And then Sunday, I mean, it's rally final, so maybe doing it in the afternoon will be a better option so that we can, you know, some of us can help in the rally finals. Monday, we have the stock trial and stuff, but we have agility finals. So maybe we could either skip that one. I mean, I don't know what you guys think.
Are you going to go around?
Or should we just do this by email? I think it's easier than doing it this way, if I'm going to be honest.
Didn't Kala send in send a form requesting everybody's possible dates?
It's the other item that's in the drop down. She has a beautiful
Yeah,
little.
she's got it there.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I personally think this would be better done over email or
Yeah.
on the board business because most members are not interested in this.
Yeah, and it's going to take us a
Jean, and I would
while.
agree.
Yeah, it's going to take us a while to decide, okay, this day is better, this day is not, you know. I think it's better to just go on and do this over email. I think we can get it done much better than this way.
Yeah.
So unless anybody has any objection, and then I would, you know, does anybody have any objection to doing this? Doing it over email? I guess not. So we're doing it over email. All right, great. So the next item is the education platform. I don't know. I haven't had time to look and see what we have from the affiliates.
You mean the committee?
Yeah, I'm sorry, from the committees.
That's okay.
Where is it? So anyway, okay, so they did send something. So I'm just gonna go around and let everybody have their say about this. I mean, Google Classroom is free, but some people like it more than others. So I'm gonna just let you guys comment on it. Carol?
So the only thing I am probably the less knowledgeable about this than a lot of people, but I will say I did see some comments from some of the other directors. And so a couple of things that they mentioned that I thought sounded favorable would be that, you know, if it was in our control and it was not at a cost to ASCA, and that we could get everybody on board with it, would definitely be, I mean, I don't particularly have a favorite platform, but I think those things would be very important for us to have regardless of what platform we pick. So that's really the only thing I have to say.
Okay, Denise?
I think the same thing. There were several comments made by different committees that they didn't have any problems with it. A couple of them had said that they had some problems. So I know, was it a couple of years ago that we wanted to make Google Classroom the official platform, so everybody was on the same page. But So because I've never used it myself, I can't say anything 100%, but the fact that it does not cost us and we can all be on the same page with maybe a little education, you know, or if somebody else has a better platform, then they can submit that and we can evaluate it. But at this point, I think a lot of them have had the opportunity to use Google Classroom, and maybe we should continue with it, unless someone has a really bad reaction to it and said that they just can't do it. So I'm not very helpful because I'm not a computer person, but free is good and everybody on the same page is good. So that's what I guess my bottom line is. Thank you.
Okay, Gina?
Yes, I'm not really overly familiar with these different platforms either. I think there have been some other free platforms that sounded easier to use. It seems like a lot of our committees do not want to use the Google Classroom. So I'm thinking maybe we could get a consensus from the committees what they would like to use, the ones that don't want to use Google, and maybe investigate those. I'm not even sure if everybody needs to be on the same platform. I'm not really familiar with how the other platforms work. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Gina. Jan?
Well, I did work in Google Classroom on, and am a judge, so have worked in it as a judge as well. It worked. However, it appears between the years when new chairs come in or new groups come in, trying to figure out the continuity to make sure that the program stays there. So Stock Dog kind of went by the wayside. Agility said, we didn't even know it was there. So now they said, hey, this looks pretty good. Maybe we'll try it again, because they don't have the person that did the original, and I can't remember the name of the platform they used. Judy might remember. But I think personally, it needs to be, I'm going to use owned, but ASCA needs to be the main owner of it. So if somebody disappears, a new ASCA would always have access to that information. And I think education is so important. I just want the committees to be able to give education to their judges in the best format that they want with the least cost. And I think there's lots of ways out there. There's several suggestions in the notes. I didn't even realize Facebook had such a platform, but it appears it does, and that was one suggestion. But I believe that the committees might be more motivated to do it if it's in a platform they feel comfortable with. But I'm still not sure how to keep it going year to year, except if ASCA is the main control of what it is. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Jan. Jean?
Well, I had posted a link that one of our members sent me that had several free learning platforms on it. I read through them all. There were two in particular that I thought we could actually use. One of my committee members had said that, you know, ideally it would be something along the lines of Groups.io, which of course, you know, everybody was like, when we first did that, but a place where you could have videos and discussions and et cetera, actually make it adjacent to your judge list for, you know, your Groups.io judge list for whatever program it might be. But there's a concern that we would run up against size limits, and I don't know how much, I mean, I haven't done that research to see how much we could buy to alleviate that problem, because that would also solve the issue of ASCA owning everything, because ASCA already owns all the Groups.io groups. That being said, yes, Google Classrooms does work for some people, but for other groups, it just does not. While it's ideal that everybody use the same platform, I would have to agree with whoever it was who said, I think it might have been Gina, who said maybe they don't all have to use the same platform, but with the caveat that obviously that ASCA needs to own it. And that, you know, been said more than once that all our programs are not the same. I just know that, as Jan pointed out, Agility wasn't using it. StockDog, it went by the wayside. Conformation isn't using it. My obedience committee has not gotten back to me. They put it out on their judge list. I haven't gotten all the feedback yet. So we're waiting to see how the end users actually feel about it, which are the judges. I know there's a concern, not a concern. Some people don't like having to get another email address, a Google email, a Gmail address. The concern with using something on Facebook is the lack of privacy and security. That Facebook just completely, you know, it's really not a good platform for that. Plus, you can't archive anything really, and it's not really searchable. So I think it's, and we did make Google Classroom our official education tool, and I think we probably need to revisit that, rescind it, whatever, and investigate other methods that might work, because if they don't like it, they're not going to use it, and the whole point is we want people to use it. So that's my take on this. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Judy?
Yeah, the Agility Committee never used Google Classroom because they couldn't get it to work. They used another format that was working very well. We could upload videos, we could ask questions, the judge could answer the question right then, and they were immediately told whether they were right or wrong and where the rule was and what rule pertained to the situation. So that worked pretty good. But when this came out, we were told we had to use Google Classroom, and that just didn't work out for many people on that committee. So my personal feeling is every committee should be able to use whatever works for them. We don't need this to be a huge public platform because, well, or again, you need to decide who's able to view this. In the instance of probably the StockDog Committee, the Agility Committee, they're using it for judges' education only. No one else is allowed to see it. It's not for the public. It's for people who are already familiar with rules and need to, you know, up their skills or whatever. So if you want this to be a totally open, anybody can go look at the education being provided, then that's fine. That probably is going to need to be a different platform than those who just need judges' education. So, and again, depending on how many judges you have, Conformation Committee, of course, has thousands of judges. A few of them could not get on Google Classroom. One of them could and says it's fine. But if the majority of your committee cannot work with that platform, that doesn't do you any good for that committee. So it's possible that if you have a committee full of Mac users, they might like something other than what the general thing likes. But I do agree. I don't think this should be, Google Classroom should be the end all and be all of our educational process, because I believe it has retarded our judges' education immensely, because if you can't get it to work, you don't use it. So I'd rather see committees be allowed to use whatever they want, whatever works for them.
Thanks, Judy. Rick?
I agree with Judy. I know the Rally Committee is not interested in using Google Classroom. They have a process that has worked very well for them and they like. StockDog Committee, they really haven't found an option for them. They feel like their members or their judges do not have the access or the availability to work with Google Classroom. So I'm all for letting the committees work it out. Let them decide what works best for their committee, their judges. They know their people, they know their judges, they know what works best for their program. So I'm all for just rescinding that Google Classroom motion. that it's our official judge's education, or however you want to put it, and let the committees come up with their own avenue that they would like to use. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Warren?
I'm not actually familiar with Google Classroom. I have gone through the lists and listened to the conversations that the various committees are having. You know, anything you do technology-wise doesn't work for everybody. I love the idea each committee could either have its own. I could support that, but I kind of, you know, what Jan said about ASCA has to own it, and I think my understanding of owning may be a little deeper than somebody else mentioned. Well, like Groups IO, we own that. I think to me, ownership is a little bit more. Ownership is not just owning the IDs and the technical part, but it's also the content. And we have to have a way, if we are going to put significant content into training, there has to be a way for that to continue as each committee evolves from one leadership to the next. And you know, we're volunteers. We will rotate on a regular basis. That's to be expected. So I love the idea of ownership in the sense that ASCA can continue the learning, whether it's Google or anything else, but that we can continue the learning when the person who invented it moves on to the next thing. If Google Classroom facilitates that, I'm all in favor. If a variety facilitates that, I'm in favor of that as well. And really, I think it does come down with what Rick just said. I mean, we need people to use it. That's the most important thing. So whatever we can get people to use is probably the most important thing.
Okay, thanks, Warren. I have a couple of thoughts about this, and you know, I think that some of us who were on the board when this was passed thought that, well, we'll give it a shot and see what happens, and I don't think it has worked out very well. So I would be okay with rescinding it and just telling the committees, you know, find some platform and let us know, say by the spring meeting, what are you going to use? The problem that I see with ownership is that then that puts the work on Ray to actually kind of like make sure that everybody who gets on there belongs, like meaning not the judges, but the people who are actually inputting the information or uploading videos and stuff like that. The other thing that I don't understand is that I don't understand the continuity argument, because the stuff is supposed to be there. If you put it in whatever platform, is there, unless you delete it, it's still going to be there, and you are able to see it. You're able to see the videos, and if you decide, well, this video is kind of obsolete because we have changed these, you know, these obstacles or whatever, then we're going to make another one, and you should be able to delete that one and upload a new one. So I'm not sure where that continuity problem is coming from. I do think that the committees need to find something that will work for them, but they do need to find something rather than just leave it hanging and just waiting, you know, months and months before they decide to put something together in whatever platform it may be and do it. I mean, ASCA needs to get in with the times. It is difficult. Judges' education is difficult nowadays unless you do something with the technologies available. That's a fact. Unless we want to do seminars like AKC does, you know, throughout the year in several different places, because having one seminar for everybody during nationals is really not very viable for a great percentage of the judges in each program. So, you know, my thing is, I'm okay with rescinding it, and we can even do that tonight, but we should also, at the same time with rescinding it, should say that the committees need to come up with a viable platform for their education, say by the spring meeting. That gives them what, 3.5 months, 3 months. And that way we can get the ball rolling. That's my thinking. So if we want to rescind anything tonight, there has to be a motion.
Okay, this is, oh, go ahead.
The idea about the access is that you need to be able to get access. You need the passwords. You need to be able to get in there, and that is the important part. I had to let somebody into the stock dog, and even though Dan had it, he didn't know how to work it, so I helped. So it didn't have to fall on Ray, but I just so they could look at it. But it's the idea is how do you continue that along? But I'd be in favor of, I believe the motion, and maybe Kala can confirm, was an evaluation of a year or two, and that is why we're doing this now. So maybe it'll just be not a motion to not continue with it. Thank you.
Yeah, I think you're right, Jan, that the motion itself said that it was going to be reevaluated by a certain date.
Yeah, this motion,
yeah.
the motion was passed at the 2018 Nationals, and it actually was only a 1-year probationary period, so we're quite a bit past that.
Okay, so we wouldn't need to rescind it. Then the motion would be more like we have decided, we have evaluated and decided not to continue.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys even really want to make a motion like that, to be honest, I don't think you really even need one. You just have reevaluated and chosen not to go forward.
Right.
Okay. So if we chose to give the committees then a directive to find another one and let the board know by a certain day, say the spring meeting, that would need a motion.
Yeah, that could be a new motion for sure.
Yeah. So anyway, that's where I'm at. I think that if they all have different systems, it's going to be more difficult for ASCA to own different platforms. It just makes things more complicated. However, if it's a matter of passwords and things like that, you know, technically speaking, it could, you know, Ray could have them or something like that. And then when somebody from the committee changes over, and you know, I think that you know, actually what should be done is that if someone is not in the committee any longer, that password needs to change. But I'm not sure how to make that a seamless process, even if we own them, because the committees are the ones who are actually using it, not the board and not Ray. It's not like the, you know, I suppose if it was like the IO groups, it would be easier to do if they find something like that.
This is Jean. I was just going to say it would be very similar to the office owning all of the groups IO list, in that the office is control of permissions, and you know, each time the chair changes, then the permission changes, and each time the board changes and different board members want to monitor things, then they get added on either by the chair or by the office. And you know, I mean, that's where your continuity comes in, and you know, that the whole idea of the office owning all of these discussion groups came about because somebody did delete the whole Conformation group many years ago.
Right,
so,
right.
You know, so you would have the same thing with these different platforms. Of course, it becomes a little bit harder to manage when you have a bunch of different platforms, but not necessarily. You know? So, you know, I think the key is that we need to have things that people are going to use.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Sure that the committees, because this was one of the motivating forces, as you know, to mandating a platform, was the fact that the board had asked and asked, and there was no movement. There were not things happening other than seminars, which, especially in this day and age, in-person things like that are not really going to happen. So we need video, we need virtual, and we need a way to do testing online. So anyhow, it can be done. We just need to figure out exactly how.
Okay,
Liz?
so yes, Rick.
Just real quick, my opinion is until the board decides that we are going to take judges' education serious, I would not be willing to give a directive for these committees. I'm all for judges' education. I'm all for the board and ASCA making this a serious topic. But until the board is ready to do that, I'm just not comfortable with giving a directive to these volunteers that are helping ASCA with these different committees. Unfortunately, we're not a business like AKC, where they have paid employees that they do nothing but work on the confirmation program, judges education. So if ASCA is ready to go down that road, I'm all for it. But until we can come together as a board and make that commitment, I'm not ready to give directives on that judge's education going that route. Thank you.
Okay, so my question to you, Rick, it would be, so how does the board show that they are ready to take this seriously? I mean, what would be your threshold? It's a serious question. I'm not, you know, like.
No, and I get it, and I'm not sure that I know the answer, but I refer back to we're primarily a volunteer organization, and we don't have the ability that I know of right now that we can dedicate something to this judge's education. I don't know. I'm not sure I know what the answer is, Liv, but AKC, they've got a department. They can run it. They can make these procedures. We don't have the people to do that, to seriously or to take this seriously. I'm all for it. As most people know, I'm a UKC judge, and they take education very seriously. We have to go through the judge's education program every couple of years. But once again, they're a business. They're not a volunteer organization. So I don't know what the answer is, Liz, to be honest with you.
Liz?
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Judy.
I do have a comment on that, which I do think if you simply tell the committees, if you make sure committees know that you're not going to change things, then you're going to get a much better response. Because again, the Agility Committee had a pretty nice video program going. And then we were told you had to use Google Classroom. And everything stopped because nobody could get Google Classroom to work. And if y'all will remember, we were supposed to have an actual presentation of Google Classroom at the Greeley Nationals, and they couldn't get it to work. So it's a little hard to expect people who don't even have knowledge of it. But in any case, I think if you told the committees, you guys come up with something, we will back you, you tell us what you need, and as long as you get something that works for your committee, we'll be happy. Because right now there's this thing of, oh, you know, they're gonna make us use something that the board wants rather than something we can use. So I just think encouragement to find something with reassurance that we're not going to change things in midstream, and I think you'll see a lot more things happen.
Liz?
Okay, I understand that. I'll get back to you, Jen, just a second. I just, you know, I just don't think that we can promise that the board is never going to change it, because as you know, the ones that are sitting here now, some of us are not going to be in the board next year or in the next 2 years, whatever. And you never know where the wind is going to blow, in what direction, as boards change. We can say that this board is not going to change it. And hopefully if it works, right, and judges are getting the education they need, then probably no other board will, is likely to question it.
Yes, and that's kind of what I'm saying, but you have to allow the committees to find that thing that works for them. And if they're afraid that we are going to again say, okay, we've been looking at this stuff and we've now decided XYZ platform is the educational platform, then you're back to square one. So it's a matter of either we decide what they're using and that's it, and not Google Classroom, but whatever else, something Jean found, whatever. Or we tell them, okay, guys, you have the license to find what works for your committee. Because some of them have already. I know Conformation wants to go to YouTube channel and do things there. So why not let them explore that? But right now, of course, they aren't going to, because they're supposed to use Google Classroom. So I'm just saying, I think if we give them the encouragement to explore options, there's a lot more of them than there are of us on committees. So maybe they'll come up with something, and maybe whatever one committee comes up with might be something that everyone else goes, oh yeah, that's user friendly, we'll do that. So that's just my suggestion.
Yeah, Jan, did you have something?
I'd like to make a motion that the committee's research, I won't use the word direct, choose their own platform for judges' education. The ASCA business office needs to have access to the sign-in information. This needs to be a free platform, and we would like information from the committees by the spring meeting and how they're going to go forward.
I'll second that. This is Gina, but I think we should say the ASCA business office will control the passwords, just so we have that control. But I'll second it.
That's fine.
Okay, so there's now a motion on the floor by Jan and seconded by Gina. Carla, can you do me a favor and read that back to us?
Sure. Motion that the committees research and choose their own platform for judge education. The ASCA business office needs to control the passwords and have access to the sign-in info. Needs to be a free platform. The board would like information from the committees on how they will move forward by the spring meeting. Second by Gina.
Okay. Any discussions? Do I need to go around again? Did I allow Warren to speak? I don't even remember.
Yeah, yes, Liz, you did long ago, but I'm all set.
Okay. Okay.
So Liz, or Jan, is this a directive? Are you going to put directive in? It's not a directive.
No.
I did not use that word.
So you're basically just requesting that they research and get back to us.
So my question is, sorry, I just have a question.
Go ahead.
Okay. Is the only reason we're making this a motion is to put the deadline on it? Because otherwise, why are we making a motion?
Well, one, they have to know that they can use something else. So we have to we realize that the Google Classroom wasn't working, but some like it, may want to use it. So we have to look at that as an option.
Well, they need to know the parameters, need to be free, the office needs to have the passwords, etc.
Right, but normally we just transmit that information in an email to our committees.
Yeah, I think that, the motion, unless it's withdrawn, is on the floor, but I think any motion is technically a directive. That's my view. So if we want to just tell them without directing them, we need, through the liaisons, we're requesting that you research whatever platforms you want, decide on one, and let us know, give us some info by the spring meeting, and then give them those parameters, then that can be done. But if it is a motion, to me, regardless of the wording, it is a directive. We're telling them to do something. I mean, I don't know if anybody has a different view of what a motion would be. I mean, but anyway, do I need to go around? That's probably better. Yeah, let's quickly go around. Carol,
I don't have anything.
Denise,
Yeah, I don't think it needs to be a directive. I think just letting them know that Google Classrooms is not on the table as a requirement. They can find something themselves, and we'd like to hear about it by spring board meeting.
okay, Gina,
I have nothing.
okay, Jan, sorry.
Well, I believe we have to stop the Google Classroom, and I believe it needs to be in minutes and be formal, so there's a paper trail. And that is why I presented the motion, and was not intended as a directive. It was intended as information to the committees. Thanks.
Okay, Jean,
I don't have anything. Thanks.
Judy,
I don't have any more.
okay, Rick,
No, I just think that by it not being a directive, to me, it's given the committees the leeway to choose to do what they want to do with this information. I don't take it as ASCA and the board is serious about this. So we might get some takers and we might not. That's how I feel it'll be. Thank you.
okay, Warren,
Yeah, interesting. Your comment about we really need to be, I can't remember, you said really need to be serious if we're going to do this. And then this motion is a little soft, but I think those actually go together well. What we're saying is that we are not going to take control and mandate. We want to know what other people think is best. And we're going to go to the committees where they are the ones who are doing the work, and we're going to ask them what they think is best. If they choose not to reply, we just saw that in our go around here. There are some people who are more than willing to just go with the majority, and I'm fine with that too. So I think it's actually okay that it's not a particular directive. I think I'm okay with it. Thank you.
okay. I have nothing else to add. So is there any further discussion? Okay, then I will call to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Liz, Rick abstains.
Okay, Rick abstains. All right, motion carries. All right. That's done. So now, okay, the termination of crisis. Following approval of temporary crisis judge procedures for many ASCA programs, the board must determine if there is a crisis so that those particular changes that they made to the rules can go into effect. So I'm not sure if anybody has a motion ready or not, but I will quickly go around. Carol?
I don't have a motion.
Okay. Denise, do you have anything to say or?
No, I don't. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what you're asking for here, Liz.
Okay, so we have to determine if there's a crisis. So each director here has to basically say, yes, we have one. We should go ahead and declare a crisis, right? And for what region, right? Because otherwise we have to determine whether there's a crisis or not. If not, those rules are not going to go into effect.
Well, I would say that there is a crisis in some areas, Europe being the main one. And I guess it's, excuse me, regionally throughout the U.S. and parts of Canada also. If they don't have, I don't know what all the states' regulations are about trans coming in and out of their state. But if you can't go into their state without staying for 2 weeks, then I would say it's a crisis. I don't know what makes up a crisis except for the fact that your rules are not your own. But I would say Europe especially.
Okay. Thank you, Denise. Gina?
Yes, worldwide crisis. Thank you.
Okay. Jan?
Well, I actually worked on a motion.
Yay.
All right. I move that ASCA is in an emergency crisis due to the continuation of the COVID pandemic. ASCA affiliates can use emergency crises judge. This will be reviewed in 1 year. And we can go around. That was my tidbit.
Yeah, yeah, because I'd like to say something.
Okay, so you want me to start over?
Probably.
Okay, so let me keep going in the order that I was going, and then I'll go back to the people who went before Jan. Okay, so Jean.
Yeah, the original question was, are we in a crisis right now? I would say yes, and I would say it affects all of our affiliates worldwide. Thank you.
Okay, Judy?
Yes, big freaking crisis.
Okay, Rick?
Yes, the country is in a crisis. Are we in a judge's crisis in the U.S.? I don't know. I really don't think so. In Canada and Europe, I would say yes. But in the U.S., I don't know that it's we're at a crisis level for judges per se, for our little piece that we partake in on our weekends. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Warren?
Hi, sorry about that. Absolutely, I feel the crisis anywhere there's travel restrictions, as someone mentioned, there's 2-week quarantine. That absolutely applies to my area. We haven't been able to leave New England, and nobody's been able to come, except under extraordinary circumstances. And it's only getting worse. There's no doubt we're in a crisis. I will react as well to Jan's motion. I believe we are in a crisis, and I would support a motion. Jan, I don't remember the exact wording, but I love the idea that we say we'll revisit in a year. If we want to revisit it sooner, obviously we can step forth, but let's put that in place right now. Let's say it's good for a year. Let's let our affiliates know what's going on and how they can best move forward. In our financial discussions, it's really quite clear the program revenue is our number one concern right now, and that is severely, there was some noise there, I'll say it again, that was severely impacted by the current crisis. 63% reduction in program revenue this year because of the COVID, there's no question. Is that a crisis? Absolutely. There's no other measurement you can use. 63% reduction, it has to be a crisis.
Thanks, Warren. I'm going to go back to Carol.
So yes, I believe we're in a crisis, and I would second Jan's motion.
Okay. Denise?
Yes, I agree that we're in a crisis, and I would agree with Jan's motion.
Okay. Gina?
Yeah, I was just going to say I would second Jan's motion. But I think I would like to also maybe have it until, reviewed in a year or until ASCA declares the crisis is over, because hopefully it'll be over before a year and we will want to stop using the crisis judges. And I think it has to apply in the US too, because there's so many different areas that you don't know if their little counties or states are closed. So that's why I said worldwide. Thank you.
Okay. I think that was it before Jan, right? So let me
I
say my
did say
piece.
ASCA affiliates, so that means
Right.
worldwide.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to add it, but I think we're a year into this game.
No,
Okay, so
no.
I know, but
This
if the
is-
motion, Jean?
I
This
think
is Jean. Yeah, I wanted to say that I think I don't believe that we should put an end date on it. I think it should just say it will be reevaluated, as the crisis dictates, or something to that effect.
I would
because
agree with that.
we may
Yeah,
Okay,
may be
I'll agree with that. Can you change my motion to, instead of the 1 year, until the board decides it's not, what are we calling, votes that it's not a crisis?
Until declares the crisis is over.
There we go. Thank you.
Yeah. Great.
See, I didn't.
Yeah, I think that's better for me. I was under the impression that in some states things were going hunky dory, and certainly not in a crisis. But I have been approached to judge by 2 clubs here in the last week, and both clubs have told me how they're having trouble finding judges that will come. It's not just when there are restrictions. It's just that many judges are not willing to travel, or that they're afraid. I mean, some of these states scare some people, to be honest. I mean, some people are saying, well, there's no way I'm going to go to Georgia right now or to Florida right now. A lot of judges are saying this kind of thing, and so it is difficult to say that even in this country, even those that don't have restrictions are not in a crisis, because it is being problematic for affiliates to find judges. So I would go ahead with the motion as it has been revised by Jan, and that's all I have to say about that. So if Kala can read it again before I call for a vote.
Sure, it is a motion that ASCA is in an emergency crisis due to the continuation of the COVID pandemic. ASCA affiliates can use the emergency crisis judges. This will be reviewed. This will be in place until the board declares the crisis is over. Second by Denise.
Okay.
Should we say emergency judge? I don't. Well, I guess I was going to say the rules, but
Crisis procedures?
procedures. That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
And it was seconded by Carol.
Right.
So where do you want to put the words procedure? I didn't get that.
That affiliates can use the emergency judge procedures.
The emergency, the crisis judge procedure.
Yes, crisis.
Because emergency is different.
Yes, it is.
Yes. Okay, so do you want to put that in, Jan, or? Jan?
Oh, sorry. Yes, I'd be happy to add
All right.
what Gina suggested.
Okay, Carla, one more time, please.
Motion that ASCA is in an emergency crisis due to the continuation of the COVID pandemic. ASCA affiliates can use emergency / crisis judge procedures. This will be in place until the board declares the crisis is over.
All right. Any further discussion? All right, then I will call for a vote. All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion carries. Let's make sure, Carla, that we announce this so that all the affiliates, all the members know that we have declared a crisis, and therefore the procedures that have already been approved by the board go into effect. Thanks. Okay, so the next issue is the procedure for crisis judges sent by the Confirmation Committee, and that will be Judy.
Yes, most of you have seen it and commented on it. Does anyone have any questions?
This is Denise. I have a question on the fact that it's a crisis situation, but it's going to take these people a minimum of 4 months to be able to qualify to be a crisis judge. So how does that work, Judy?
Well, there are people on the committee who basically wanted exactly the same requirements as being a regular judge. They did manage to compromise and bring it down to lowering some of the requirements, but this is pretty much what they came up with.
Okay, I think I'm going to go around to allow everybody so that the members know where each director, what they think about the motion. And so I'm going to call on Carol. Carol? Okay, we may have lost Carol, so I'm going to go back to her. So Denise?
So I am just not sold on the fact that it takes 4 months to qualify to be a crisis judge when we have an emergency judge situation that is similar, except that is just exclusively to that show, where that you can, you take the most experienced person, by step-by-step elimination, and that's who you can use for a judge. And I really think that's how it ought to be. It shouldn't take somebody 4 months to be a crisis judge. I think that when somebody has to get a judge for an area that has no judges, such as Europe, they can't wait 4 months. Why would they even worry about having dog shows if they have to wait 4 months to get somebody done? I just think that I hate to be negative on this, but I feel like it's just short-sighted of the Confirmation Committee to expect it to take that long when they have an emergency judge situation that could be utilized the same way on a more broad spectrum situation with some limitations due to the fact that it is actually a crisis region, a crisis situation. So I'd like to hear what other people have to think about that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Denise. Gina?
I agree 100%. I normally try to support the committees and figure that they're the ones that know what's best for their program. But in this case and in this situation, 4 months is too long. It defeats the purpose of even having this motion. I don't think it would be abused, and I don't think you're going to get unqualified people judging, and it's just not going to be a permanent situation. So I hate to say it, but I am not in favor of this motion. Thank you.
Thanks, Gina. Jan?
I ditto to exactly what everyone has said. I'm very much that we needed to make this easy for the Europeans. The Americans can hire a judge cancels, they can go to emergency. The Europeans can't even hire a judge because they can't make the arrangements and then in a timely fashion to make any of this happen. So it should have been closer to what they can do in an emergency judge situation. So again, I have a hard time supporting this. If this is our only answer, I guess we could, but it doesn't, I don't see this helping our out of country folks. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. I'm going to skip you, Judy, and go to Rick.
You forgot Jean.
I'm sorry. Yes, Jean. Sorry, Rick.
No, you're good. Go ahead, Jean.
Thank you. I support what Denise said. I agree with her 100%, and I agree with Gina also. So thank you. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Rick. Rick?
I'm sorry, I had you on mute. A question for Judy. I know I read the motion, but I need clarification a little bit more. Judy, is this judge crisis procedure for all of Conformation, or is it just in Europe?
It is for Europe and Canada is how they worded the motion, just like agility.
Okay, so, okay.
Because those countries, those areas cannot even hire a judge. So they can't even use the emergency judge procedure. So in Europe, it's other than if you'd have to lie and say, oh, I have, Rick Yan coming from America, and when we know darn well he can't come, and then use the emergency judge. So they're trying to make it legal. They're trying to do it by the rules. So it's for the U.S. and Canada, or sorry, it's for Europe and Canada.
Okay, thank you.
Is that it, Rick?
Yeah, I just needed some clarification on that.
Okay. All right. Warren?
I'm absolutely going to support the committee's proposal. I have to agree, and we, just like we did with the last one, we give the committees the leeway. We did this to make it so that we could allow for our programs to take place. And this result, while it absolutely adheres to high quality for confirmation judges, and I understand the importance of that, I believe that it actually fails in terms of helping people who need flexibility. And that's what we need right now. I would be very happy to vote on this tonight and support it. And I would be exceedingly pleased if the confirmation committee came back next month and said, we've been able to look at this, and in these situations, we're able to cut the time down. I think we really need to do that. I hate to say it, Jan, but you're spot on. We're in this for another year. And 4 months is a long, long time. And God forbid one of those people who spends 3.5 months getting ready, and then all of a sudden, what if they get sick? So this is helpful, but it's not a solution. A solution exists. I would like to ask for it. But in the meantime, absolutely, I'm going to support it. And I thank the committee for their work.
Okay, so now it's my turn, and this is Liz, and the purpose, the goal of the crisis rules, in my opinion, was to balance the need for quality with the crisis that we face. And this certainly, makes sure that whoever is judging is going to have the knowledge and is going to be able to do a quality job. It doesn't, however, address the crisis by just taking the show, requirements out, and having one less dog that they have to finish, and stuff like that. It's just not enough. The other thing is that if the board says that the crisis applies to every affiliate, then this motion is also going against what the board has just said. So, because it supposedly applies, the motion in the comments say that it's for Canada and Europe, then that is something that it kind of contradicts what we just passed. But my main problem with it is that it does not address the needs of Europe. Okay, and this is what we could have done. I mean, in a perfect world, what I would have perhaps done with this motion is, instead of those 30 days, put 2 weeks, 2-week time limits for these people to send comments, to people, to finish the test. And also, if they're going to have the test, I think it should be a shorter test. The regular test has like 99 or 100 questions. And these people are not going to be able to use any of this if they ever decide 2 years down the road to be judges. So what I would have maybe done is take the test, choose, 12 questions that address procedure, 12 questions that address, the standard, 4 or 5 questions that address juniors, et cetera, and make it a shorter test that people can take in a hurry and still show that they know something about the procedures, confirmation ring procedures, and the ethics, the code of ethics, and the standard and junior patterns, or whatever it may be. I think that would have worked a little better in still choosing only people that are going to be taking this seriously and that have knowledge, and also addressing the crisis. So that's where I'm at with that. Judy, do you have anything?
Yes, I do. I appreciate the comments, and they will go back to the committee if you vote this down. And I have to say, you have to remember this was a very hard-fought compromise. It only passed 5-4 to even get this much past the committee. I totally agree with you. I think it takes way too long, and it's not something I would have done, but I'm not on the committee, so that's not my prerogative. I will vote for it to support them, just because I know what it's taken to get here, but I totally understand if it's voted down and it can be worked on again. The only other thing, the problem we have is, you just said that we can't do it with the motion we just made, but you've already approved a crisis judge procedure for strictly Canada and Europe. So I don't know that you can say you can't approve this because of that. Thank you.
Thanks, Judy.
Can you say that last comment again? I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
Okay. Liz just said that we can't approve this because it specifies only Europe and Canada, but the board has already approved a crisis judge procedure for another program that is only for Europe and Canada. So either
Okay,
we
thank
have
you.
to rescind that and send it back, if that's the reason we're going to vote this motion down. So again, we can't deal in double standards.
Yeah, well, it's the reason that what I voted no in a couple of them. So whether it passed or not, you know. But anyway, you are right that we have to keep consistency. Any other comments? Questions? Okay, if that's the case, then I'm gonna call for a vote. All in
I'm
favor?
sorry.
Aye.
Oops, aye.
Aye, Rick.
Any opposed?
Me,
Aye.
Gina,
Denise?
So far I have Gina, Denise,
And Jean?
okay,
Jan,
okay. And I'm also gonna vote no. I think that it needs to be, amended. I know it was hard for them and I can understand. I fully understand. We don't want just anybody judging, but I think it needs to, you know, the timeline, it just needs to be redone or reviewed.
Liz, can I
Unfortunately.
make a comment?
Sure, Denise.
So I know that they want quality judges, and that's the main portion of this. And I don't know how many of you have been in a dog show where the judge doesn't show up and they have to choose an emergency judge. And what happens there is that they have a committee of the show chair, et cetera, and they look at the people around the ring and they do just that. They pick the person with the most experience that they feel would do an honest job with the most experience and the best person for that job right there. So having to pass a test you pass the test on people that you know. They're going to choose, I would think, from people that they know, that are already breeder judges, or that they have had judged before, or breeders. And those breeders are going to be the ones that have produced the dogs, have shown the dogs, have bred the dogs, who have been, had good morals and ethics, and they feel would be to cast an honest opinion and pick the dog they felt was the best. So I don't think they necessarily need all that paperwork behind them in a crisis emergency situation. I think that the people who are going to pick those people to judge as a committee are going to do that automatically, that they would pick the person they feel is the absolute best for the job using pretty much the same criteria. So, and they could do it in a timely fashion and have a show. So that's just my opinion. Thanks.
this is Gina. Can I say one more thing?
Okay, you can make your comment.
Thank you. I agree with Denise, and it's not the crisis judge. That judging is not going to go towards their judging criteria, you know, the things that they have to meet. It's also not like they're going to be awarding 100 champions and having shows every weekend. I don't see this being abused at all. And I think it should be more like the emergency judge provisions. Thank you. Judy, if you could let them know that, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, Gina,
Well,
thank you. I intend to send the place on this recording where they can hear everybody's comments.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If we could finish the voting, because we really haven't. Any abstentions? Okay, no abstentions. So Kala, did you get the count?
It was 4 in favor and 5 against.
All right, so motion carries. So, okay, so.
No,
I'm sorry,
motion,
the motion
motion fails.
Motion
Oh.
failed.
There were 4.
Okay, motion fails. Yeah,
5.
sorry.
Sorry.
Yes, motion fails. So, Judy, if you can forward the comments that the directors have made, then that would be great. Hopefully, they can come up with some solution. Anyway, it carries. So we're gonna go ahead to the last item. The motion fails, so we're gonna go ahead to the last item, which is the revision of the 2021 premium. Rick?
Yes, thank you, Liz. I hope everyone has been able to look it over one last time. There has been a couple little updates, but nothing significant. And I just make a motion to approve the 2021 Nationals premium.
I'll second. This is Gina.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor by Rick, seconded by Gina, to approve the 2021 premium as has been presented. Any further discussion? Okay, I'm gonna call for a vote then. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries. All right, that was the last item. So I want to thank all the directors and I want to thank all the members for listening. And so I would like if somebody can make a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn. Denise?
Okay, Denise has made a motion to adjourn, seconded by Gina, and I assume everybody's gonna say yay.
Very well done, Liz. Great meeting.
No,
Yeah,
I don't want it to end.
Be quiet,
It's either
Gina.
dinner time or bedtime.
Yeah, it's almost my bedtime.
It's
All
way
right.
past bedtime out here.
Good evening, everybody. Have a good one.
Good evening, and thank you.
Good
Great
night.
job, thank you.
Good night.
Night.